the vengeance, back on the grinds, back to the business. Hey, God is my witness, they watching my moves like shows they binging. Hey, best keep distance, all of my haters send best of wishes. I get to the bag with the quickness, no I don't need no assistance, no. Yeah, no playing it safe, I said let's get it, you say not today. What can I say, if you ain't gon' go for it, get out the way. Yeah, got no time to waste, can't be with me if you not at my pace. You not at my level, you not in my race. One foot on the gas, I'm pushing the brakes. Dancing with the devil, there's no recital. I'm killing competition, ain't no revival. I shoot it to kill it, I'm aiming for vitals. I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the grass, they getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Yeah, I gotta get it. Get it, don't mindset. I gotta get it, don't mindset. I gotta get it, don't mindset.
From deep inside Belgium, we travel back to the US of A and to the Iowa Speedway, the fastest short track on the planet. The first 3 weeks of this iRacing IndyCar Open Championship have been full of championship implications, and right now, 5 drivers, 1 team dominate the top of the point standings. Delighted to have your company wherever you are in the world. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV, where my name is Arjuna Kankipati. Delighted to be joined alongside by Andrew Kinsella for 160 laps here at the fastest short track in the planet. Live timing, as always, is powered by our partners at ATVO. Follow along with your favorite team and drivers by heading to RaceSpot.tv/timing2. And Andrew, after a roller coaster at the Belgium roller coaster Spa-Francorchamps, we now head to one of the most interesting tracks on the schedule, if you ask me. We are at not Spa-Francorchamps, we're at the Iowa Speedway instead. A track notorious for burning up the tires, and we've got a new tire that is going to be crucial to see how drivers have managed to adapt their setups to the challenge at hand.
Happy New Year's, Arjuna, and welcome to Iowa. This is the track that I have had circled on the schedule since this schedule came out in the middle of season 4 Iowa is the new track, or the new tire on the block here today, and it is going to be a major difference, I think, in the way that this track races. So I am fascinated and looking forward to watching what happens here today with all of these drivers.
First 3 rounds have seen so much championship intrigue. The first race was Brandon Traino versus Adam Blocker. Then Traino's chance of the championship took a major hit at Michigan with a technical issue. And then Spa-Francorchamps, aggressive from the start. Brandon Traino got a slowdown coming over the crest at Eau Rouge, and that put him right back in the middle of the pack, where his aggressiveness cost him. Caused a bit of an issue coming up the hill out of Stavelot to Curver Paul Frere. He now sits outside of the top 10, and like I said at the start, 5 drivers, 1 team dominate these points right now. After his win last Monday, Hugo Olsen is at the top of these championships, but the reality is, with Olsen going to be missing the majority of these Mondays, Andrew, it's anyone's to take here.
Absolutely, and we have a number of these drivers here today, and it's going to be a fascinating race to watch, especially among the Powerslide teammates. I know they'll be on very similar setups, but it'll be very different styles of racing, I think, from the Powerslide team. And what will Brandon Traino be able to do? It looks like he might just have gotten on the pole here today, so this might be the turnaround that he needs to start off this race here today.
Not much of a pre-show to talk about. Let's go straight down trackside at the Iowa Speedway to take a look at our starting grid for round 4 of this iRacing IndyCar Open Championship. Brandon Traino leads Team i5G from pole position, a 16.678. The Hyperstar is alongside, less than half a tenth off the pace, with Robert Malechka III alongside Jacob Oster, row number 2. Matt Pavelski joins us for the first time this season on a Monday night. He'll be alongside the defending series champion Adam Block, who lines up back in 6th spot, while Alexander Van der Sant, Tony Schau, and Powerslide Motorsports teammates make up row 4 on the grid. Andrew Marquez, Jesper Orman complete the top 10 with Lexus Newsom and Trace Shadid 11th and 12th. Andreas Ike, Andrew Wood for Team Talent rolling off on row 7 with Adam Crane, Matt Hollebutt. Disappointing qualifying performances for the both of them. What can they do back in the mid-pack of the top 20? AJ Musselman and Joe Branch, some of the final cars to have set qualifying lap times. Christian Maccarelli, 19th and final car in our field here today. And so, Andrew, we haven't really talked too much about this track, but it is short, it is tempting to roll around as quickly as you can, but tire management is going to be key. What are the main differences, in your opinion, since we've got this new short tire model?
Yeah, so first of all, the track is Iowa, and it is a very fast track in this IndyCar. It has variable banking, and the big thing about it is this Rusty Wallace design track really forces you to take some different lines through the corners. And one of the things that these new tires have really forced is it has just a little bit less grip. So that bottom lane isn't going to be quite the same as it used to be. The tires still have a lot of fall off. There's going to be a lot of lap time fall off throughout the course of the race, just like you see in the real life. But the big thing is that top lane, I think, is going to come into effect in this race. So it should be very interesting to see whose car works best on which lane here today.
And when you come to a short track, Andrew, the major thing is the danger zone with the pit strategy. We're thinking that the fuel window is anywhere from 65 to 70 laps, so you can't really do it on one stop if we go green from the drop of the green to the checkered flag. But the reality is that is a somewhat unlikely scenario, and the most dangerous point, other than all the on-track action, is that entry to pit lane.
Absolutely. If we get into green flag pit stops, timing is going to be key here. You don't want to come in too early because of the distinct possibility that something could happen on pit in. But at the same time, if you wait too long, you can lose a lot of time to those drivers on the new tires, 1, maybe even 2 seconds a lap. So it's going to be fascinating to see what driver does what here in terms of strategy if we get to these green flag pit stops.
Recent memories of this track in the real world include huge crashes on restart, on start, some of your big names being mixed up as well, but we've got 19 of the finest in this iRacing IndyCar community locked and loaded for 160 laps at the fastest short track on the planet. Brandon Traino brings us to the green flag. We're racing in Iowa. A good start from the field. Brendan Lichtenberg has already been sworn for second position. Malechka's worked his way up to second. 3 wide almost as they work their way off of turn 4. Matt Pavelski pinched down on the inside line. And where do you want to position your cars in the early stages of this run, Andrew?
I think wherever you can get some clean air and get some good momentum going, that's going to be key here, especially in the early going, is keeping your momentum up. If you lose some momentum, you can easily find yourself swarmed and under attack from behind. So what these drivers are going to try and do is just find the clean air, keep their momentum up, and then slowly make some passes, because these laps will click off really quickly, but at the same time, each lap does present a different opportunity to try and make a move.
Jacob Oster trying to fend off the advances of Adam Blocker. Blocker in the middle of an I5G sandwich, his 2 Power Slide teammates behind as they try and close. Of the 8 drivers in the top 8, 2 teams represented their I5G as well as Power Slide Motorsports. It's been a great start to the season for Power Slide Motorsports, but this is where on an oval we expect the I5G drivers to show up, have some fun, and we'll see how things go for them. Across the start-finish line once more, Andrew Wood putting the pressure on Trace Shadidis on the edge of the top 10. Meanwhile at the front, clearly, clean air is going to be important. 8 tenths already, the gap between first and second, Andrew. But the reality is, because it's such a short lap, we're talking lap times in the 18-second bracket, lap traffic is really going to be a major factor here.
Absolutely. This clean air will not last long for Brandon Trano. 19th place, Jesper Orman is already 11 seconds back in a 16 to 17 second lap, so they're going to be coming up on dirty air very quickly. Meanwhile, we've got an exciting battle for third with Jacob Oster, Brandon Lichtenberg, and Adam Blocker. Blocker's looking to the outside. It looks like he's trying to make the outside work. Does just that with Brandon Lichtenberg. Let's see what he can do with Jacob Oster. It looks like the Power Slide car is maybe working a little bit better on that high side, whereas the i5G car is working better on the low side. So already a little bit different lines from both of these teams here.
And Jesper Orman, by the way, started from pit lane, so I'm not sure if he expected a bit of carnage, a bit of chaos on lap number 1. It hasn't gone his way. He is well and truly in the danger zone. He's a couple of tenths down per lap compared to your race leader. He's going to be coming under fire in terms of your leader catching up and putting him 1 lap down, side by side for 6th place, side by side for second as well. Third, I should say, as well. Jacob Oster, Adam Blocker continue to duke it out amongst themselves. Alexander Van der Sant, we've seen just how racy he does like to be. He is trying to put the pressure on to the back of Brendan Lichtenberg right now and shuffle the driver that started on the outside of the front row down into what would be 6th position, and momentum is crucial here. But this is what we learned last week, Andrew, when the IndyCar Fix Series came here. Tire preservation is more important than one would think. Managing the wear in the first 5 to 10 laps of the stint will really pay dividends as we get through these long fuel runs.
Yeah, tire wear is incredibly important here today. You're going to see lap times falling off by at least a second a lap by the end of the run. So anything you can do to preserve that tire life just a little bit longer than your competitors is going to give you a major advantage as we get into 50, 60, even almost 70 laps into a stint. So it is so important that they just take it a little bit easy, not burn off these tires, especially if you can't get the move done early. It's really a lot more to their advantage. Just sit back and save some of these tires here.
Already 13 laps into this race, it's the type of race where if you get into the situation where cautions breed cautions, it can take a long time, but if you go green, the laps tick on by, the race flies on past, and before you even know it, you find yourself at the checkered flag. But as I say that, the first caution of the day will come out, and I believe it involves Christian Macarelli as well as Joe Branch. Potentially Adam Crane got mixed up in that one as well. He is already taking the tow back down to pit road. Lasted until lap 13, Andrew, but first caution is out.
Yep, it was almost right on cue, wasn't it, Arjuna? We had a little bit of a commentator's curse going on there just for the caution in general, I think. But it looked like Branch and Crane just sort of got together coming through 3 and 4. Crane on the outside here of Joe Branch. Tries to go down into the corner. And I think he just didn't realize that Joe was maybe starting to lose his tires a little bit. Joe lifts off the gas and then Crane straight into the back of him. Yeah, this is one for me where Crane needs to be a little bit more aware, especially of where we are in the stint and the differing tire wears and the differing setups. He just needs to be a little bit more aware. He didn't necessarily need to be that close entering turn 4, and gets into the back of Crane, and then Macarelli had nothing to do with it, just got caught up in the aftermath of it, basically.
And so as you'd expect, given how the tires wear out here, drivers onto pit lane from here, it would be a one-stop race to the end. Brandon Trano leads the entirety of the 18 runners still out on track onto pit road. The question will be for Joe Branch, how long will he spend on the pit lane to get those blows to his car repair? How much damage has he sustained? That's the question on his mind. Race off of pit road. It's close between Malechka and Treno, but 6/10 quicker in the box for Malechka, not able to leapfrog his way up into first. Doesn't look like any change in the top 4. Alexander Van der Sant does manage to cycle his way up into 5th. Brendan Lichtenberg from 2nd down to 7th.
Yeah, Lichtenberg had a terrible pit stop there. He actually came in 4th place right behind Adam Blocker, but it was still a 3-spot loss for Brandon Lichtenberg. Not quite sure what happened. Maybe he just didn't quite have the car lined up in the box. One of the things about the iRacing pit stop AI or basically the pit stop program is if you're not perfectly lined up in the box, it actually does take slightly longer for your crew to change the tires. It readjusts where it's positioned and stuff. So it could just be he was just not quite lined up and it cost him a couple of positions there.
Things changed just like that. Treno, Malechka, Oster, Blocker, Van der Sant, the top 5, with Pavelski, Lichtenberg, Schauen, Marquez, and Shadid through the top 10. Lichtenberg, the biggest loser inside of the top 10. He's down 5 positions. Jesper Ormanov taking the pit road start is down 6. Adam Crane, with his incident, might be day done for him as well. He is down 4 from where he started. In terms of those finding some headway, Blocker's up 2, Van der Sant is up 2 as well, but it's really not a track where it's easy to make passes. You compare it to the oval that we visited a couple of weeks ago, Andrew, where it seemed like at Michigan we were seeing passes every single lap. That is definitely not the case here today.
No, this track is much more cerebral. You have to set up the passes for multiple laps at a time and then really time them perfectly in order to get them executed. The reason for that is it's very difficult to get the pass done on the inside properly. And if you can't go all the way back out to the outside line, the outside, and there's a car up there that you didn't quite get cleared, there's often that car is able to maintain his momentum better and repass on the outside. So it's very difficult to set up these passes. But once these tires start to go off, I think you're going to start seeing it becoming a little bit easier just because different drivers and different teams will have different setups that allow for the tires to do different things.
One thing we haven't really talked about is the weather. Usually when IndyCar comes to Iowa, it's under the night lights. We're racing in the middle of the day, 21 degrees in the air, 37 down on the track. Not much in terms of cloud cover, not much to speak of either when it comes to the wind, which sometimes can gust you around. And given that we're now running single plane wings, a change that was made a couple of years ago here on iRacing, less downforce, that wind even more of a factor. Green flag back in the air. Treno gets the jump already, 4/10 clear. Oster to the outside, building his momentum as they come out through turn number 2. He's not close enough just yet. Lichtenberg coming under fire from Tony Schauen. Across the line, no changes then in the top 7, but here we go. Schauen really feeling comfortable, and it's a home race as well for Tony Schauen. We know just how much he loves Iowa, Andrew.
Yeah, Iowa is definitely one of Tony's favorite tracks. He's done really well here in past Lionheart competitions especially, and he's having a really strong run here today. It does really look, Arjuna, though, we have a power slide I5G stranglehold on the top 8, at least for these first 20 or so laps, and it doesn't appear that it's getting any better. Looking further back in the field at the likes of Marquez and Shadid, they're just not quite able to stay up with the top 8 right now, but hopefully that changes as the run goes on here.
And that's where the setup comes into play. It's the fact that at a track like this where you can get a little bit aero tight at times, you also are on the verge of plowing at points when you build the car to go fast. It really does make it difficult. Adam Crane rolls himself off a pit lane. Not day done, but definitely looks like day compromise. He was running very, very slow down on the apron, trying to stay out of the way and make sure he's not a factor when it comes to anyone else's race. Christian Macarelli going on the charge. He's going to lose the momentum down on the inside line. Joe Branch, 2 cars that came into contact, fighting side by side through turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, it does look like that. Fortunately, Branch and Macarelli were able to get away with it, at least for the most part here. So it looks like they are at least mostly up to speed here, although Branch is going maybe a little bit slower than he was before. But that's good news for the both of them. But going back to something that you just said, one of the things that we haven't talked about yet that we'll definitely get into more as the race goes on is, as you were describing, the balance change of this car over the course of the run, because that is one of the most important aspects of short track racing in an IndyCar, is managing the balance changes as these runs go on.
Right side of the screen, Alexis Newsom coming under fire from Andrew Wood, who's looking to the inside. We've seen Wood be quick in short tracks across of all generations of IndyCar. I think back to his podium in the classic IndyCar series at Richmond in the RO5. Slightly different car, a little bit more adjustment in terms of the in-car tools as well, but he is committed to trying to dive down low, just not able to get the momentum yet. Look at him though, running up the track, almost running into Alexis Newsom.
Oh, that was very close. Alexis came down just a little bit as Wood was going up, and they very nearly came together. But we're fortunate to be able to stay off of each other. Some really good driving between both of them. But yeah, you're absolutely right about Wood. He's definitely one of the people that I would say is more of a short track specialist. Some of his top wins have come, for instance, in the Indy Elite Series at Richmond. He's done really well there as well. He's done well at Iowa in the past, so definitely a driver to keep your eye on, especially as the race goes on. Team Talent doesn't necessarily look like they have the strongest qualifying setups this year, but if he's able to have a good race setup under him, he could find himself much closer to the front by the end of this race, as we've seen a number of times with the Team Talent cars already.
Matt Holliber has a good view of this as we ride on board with the number 17 car. Wood to the inside once more, and he's got the momentum. I think he might be able to wiggle his way up the track, but instead wobbles his way on the bottom, has to get back into line at least for now. And as we're already about 15 laps into this run, Andrew, where are the tires starting to go? You talked about the balance of the car changing. For someone like Andrew Wood with all of this dirty air, how is that car going to be adapting over the course of the run? What does he do on the in-car tools to try and get the speed out of it?
Yeah, so there's really two things that the drivers are going to be combating right now, and they sort of converge to present a more serious problem. The first thing that the drivers are going to be combating is that just the overall decrease in grip, and it's going to be especially apparent on the corner exit. The second thing is that the way that these cars are set up is they're actually leaning a little bit more on the right front than on the right rear. So it'll cause the balance to shift from probably what'll start out as a fairly loose race car and then develop over the course of the run into a fairly understeery car. So this is probably the danger zone of a run right here, Arjuna, where just the front end of the car is starting to go away, especially on corner exit, and then it's really, really easy to misjudge that as it's happening because it's shifting towards understeer, most pronounced on that corner exit there.
Adam Crane has parked it for the day, so whatever damage he got clearly was terminal. 18 cars still running, 18 cars on the lead lap, a bit of a separation forming at the front of the field, 1 second between Traino and Alechka for first. Jacob Oster a further second behind the car in second, but Adam Blocker is keeping Jacob Oster honest. The fight for the final podium position is Oster Blocker versus Van de Sant. For a moment it looked like Tony Schowen was putting the pressure onto Brendan Lichtenberg as well, but at least for the time being he has slid back very slightly and will have to do all of that work over again. Brendan Lichtenberg still down 5 positions from where he started this race. Jesper Orman moving his way up through the field after starting down on pit row has dispatched of Matt Holliber. Next car in line will be Andrew Wood, who after going to the inside has maybe burned up his tires just a little bit too much now, because Andrew, he is half a second behind Alexis Newsom.
It's so easy to do, Arjuna, especially early on in the run. It's so tempting to just try and go for it as much as you can and make up as many positions as you can. But if you're too hard on those tires, the temperatures rise, and then it'll take multiple laps for the temperatures to come back down to where you want them to be. And by that time, you've used up a lot of that front tire. So it's small decisions early on in the run that is really going to determine how well some of these drivers can hang on to their cars as the run goes on.
Tony Schowen around the outside of Brendan Lichtenberg has done one on the Hyperstar and has worked his way up into now 7th spot. Brendan Lichtenberg really slipping down through the field. Next car in line would be Andrew Marquez, only about a 10.5 behind at this point in time. And after that great qualifying performance for the Hyperstar, it's going from bad to worse, as here indeed comes Andrew Marquez, the New York native, looking down low, and Lichtenberg's car just not looking comfortable. He continues to slide down through the field. great race that we've got now after that one caution, and even leading up to that caution, Andrew, these cars were really going clean around this track, and it's a track where you and I have seen it, for example, in Lionheart in the past, just how easy it is to try getting a move done and cause absolute chaos.
Yeah, it's so easy to misjudge something, but these drivers have been doing a really good job so far. That there hasn't been too much desperation in any of their moves, but I will say, Arjuna, looking at the standings, we are really starting to see a big gulf forming between 5th and 6th place, where Alex Van de Sant and the top 5 have really broken away from Matt Pavelski, Tony Schoen, and Brendan Lichtenberg, and I'm wondering if those i5G cars are just not quite up to the task on that longer run. We've seen Lichtenberg under attack from Schoen and now from Marquez. Schoen's now quickly onto the back of Matt Pavelski, and they're just not able to keep up with the leading 5 yet.
And Brandon Traynor, really the only one that's kind of proving you wrong, but he's proving you wrong, Andrew, in the fact that he's got all of that clean air right now.
Yeah, the clean air is definitely helping Brandon Traynor. I'm actually surprised that Malechka is able to stay as close as he is at this point. But the other driver that is really impressing me right now is Jacob Oster in that other i5G car in 3rd place. He's doing a really good job staying up with that top 5, but he does have about 1.4 seconds on Robert Malechka right now. So that cleaner air, it's not clean air, but it is cleaner air, is definitely helping him. We're seeing a fantastic side-by-side battle with Tony Schoen and Matt Pavelski. Oh no!
Well, they went side by side for a lap, and it was only going to go one way, if you ask me, and that was disaster, and it ends in disaster, unfortunately, for Matt Pavelski. Somehow, he's staying up there on the high side, buried into the wall, and caution hasn't come out yet, but surely it's inevitable. And there it is.
Just on cue, there's the caution.
And sometimes you get away with incidents when, you know, the car's bobble down to the inside of the track. Not the case this time around, and it was almost just the question of when, Andrew, when he was going to come to a halt, try and tow back to pit lane, and from there, well, it was inevitable.
Yeah, it looked like Pavelski just didn't have any drive left, and he was caught in the wall, which unfortunately meant he had to stop on the track. So that does necessitate a caution. But looking back at the incident itself, they were doing some really good side-by-side battling there, and I think it was just a case of a little bit of miscommunication between the two. We'll have to see the replay, but it looked like a little miscommunication onto who was going to take what lane through 3 and 4 is what led to that contact there.
Well, I think while the car surely will come down onto the caution, we'll take onto the pit lane to get some tires. We'll take a look here in the super slow-mo. Watch as they come through turn 3. Don't get the best angle there, but they had gone side by side for long enough. The surprise was that it ended like that, and we'll get one more look maybe from a slightly different angle, Andrew, because really, Schoen can only turn down so much. I'm not trying to say it was Pavelski's fault, don't get me wrong, but it's just one of those things. When you fight side by side for so long, something like this is bound to happen.
Yeah, so I'm going to say what I think Tony Schoen was trying to do was he was trying to use that middle lane. It seems like the power side drivers are more comfortable higher up on the track, and the i5G cars are more comfortable lower down on the track. And it looks like Tony was trying to stay in that middle lane, whereas Pavelski was really anticipating him diving down to the bottom, like his car is comfortable with. And I mean, Tony is he's allowed to have that.
Sorry.
Yep.
We'll get back to that. What's happening with Jacob Oster here? He is pulled down. Has he gotten an end of line penalty from speeding on pit exit?
I think he might have an end of line penalty here. And the other thing to note is that we had 2 cars stay out as well, Arjuna. That was Alex Van de Sant and Alexis Newsom have stayed out on the track. So one of the contenders back to the end of the longest line. A second of the contenders in Alex Van de Sant playing some pit strategy here. It'll be a little bit of topsy-turvy at the front of the field with Van de Sant and Newsom rather than Traynor leading the way.
Well, we do know how Alexander Van de Sant and Alexis Newsom enjoy a fuel-saving race, and we're not really in fuel-saving territory when it comes to that. We are in the strategy game, though. Both of these drivers do enjoy a bit of strategy fun. You think back to the Lionheart Speedway Series where Alexander Van de Sant took a dramatic victory. I believe it was at the Kansas Speedway, and we've seen Alexis Newsom be a revelation in that Lionheart Speedway Series as well. more than halfway through the run, though, Andrew. So the question isn't if the pass is going to happen. The question is, how long is it going to take for Brandon Traynor to get on pass? And if it takes longer than Traynor wants, can Robert Malechka use that car, which is handling better in the dirty air, to work his way to the net race lead?
Yeah, I think this definitely presents an opportunity for both Malechka and Blocker especially. But the other thing that will be interesting to see is just how much that clean air is really important at the front. Because just as you say, if it takes a long time for Brandon Traynor to get around Van de Sant simply because Van de Sant does have that clean air, is that something that potentially some of the other competitors will suddenly look at for later on in this race as well?
Lights are still on the pace car, so at least one more lap under the caution before we go to the end. The other thing to think about is that for Brandon Traynor, given how the last few weeks have gone, it's fair to say his championship hopes have already somewhat taken a hit. He needs a result here in what I think, Andrew, is the strongest field that we've got in terms of strength of field. 4,800 iRating is the strength of field, which means some of the most points are on the table. A good result for him here today would really make the pain of the last couple of weeks a little bit more bearable.
Absolutely. 4,800 means a ton of points on offer here, more than any other race that we've had so far. And all it takes is one race to really turn your season around. Because keep in mind, Arjuna, that we are only looking at the 8 best results out of a 12-week system. That's how the championship works here on the official series in iRacing. So while it's not the best that Brandon Traynor has had these poor results the last 2 weeks, it's certainly not the end of the world, and it's certainly not the end of the championship, particularly if you can win at a race like this, which with such a high strength of field.
Well, second caution of the day comes to an end. Now 2 retirements down in the garage. Matt Pavelski joins Adam Crane in that garage area, but we are ready to get back underway. It's Alexander Van der Sant, Alexis Newsom. Oddballs on the pit strategy, but in control of the field, racing once more in Iowa. How long can Brandon Traynor wait to try and get the move done? He's already coming under pressure from Robert Malechka.
Yeah, Malechka right on the back of Brandon Traynor for third place here. And this is really an opportunity for Malechka to really try and get around Brandon Traynor. We haven't seen Brandon in dirty air all race yet, so this will be the test to see how his car handles, and Malechka right on the back of him.
We'll take a look on board with Malechka. Watch him as he just runs a lane higher, has a little bit of clean air on the nose as they come out of turn 4 across the start-finish stripe. About 3/10 the gap between second and third, a quarter of a second less than that between Malechka and Traynor. Just able to follow a little bit closer is the Powerslide Motorsports driver, but Traynor sees that alternate line, feeds him a little bit of dirty air, and Malechka will drop back very slightly.
And now it's all on Brandon Traynor to try and use that car of Alexis Newsom, especially as Newsom starts to lose the draft of Van de Sant just a little bit. If Traynor can do this properly, he could also potentially put the car of Alexis Newsom in between himself and Robert Malechka and use that to maybe get the gap. So everything to play for here in the top 5, but we've also got some really close battling back in the field. Oh no!
That was Van der Sant who was slipping sideways through the front of the shot and from the lead out of the top 10 after disappointment yesterday for Alexander Van der Sant in the Indy Elite Series season opener. Well, consecutive days, consecutive issues from him. And what has happened to the driver of the number 6 here?
It looks like Arjuna, he fell victim to the bump in turn 2, got loose on corner exit, and noses his car into the wall. It looks like that potentially, at the very least, he's got nose damage, but yeah, he just goes over the bump. Car gets loose on exit. I think this is the lap before that we're seeing right here, but if we can go forward just a little bit here, you'll see that as he goes through turn 1, he just goes over the bump. The car gets light and loose. And I think this is the opposite problem to what we were talking about with Brandon Traynor. Is Van de Sant, this is the first time he's been in clean air all race. So this is really him experimenting to see how his car is going to react. And it looks like he probably just didn't quite have the tools right. You can see he hits that big bump and it just puts him sideways. He corrects the car, almost saves it, but it noses straight into that barrier on the outside wall. And unfortunately, that looks like both nose damage and suspension damage for Alexander Van de Sant.
My question is was it just the tools and the fact that he hadn't been in clean air? How much would the tires have played a factor there? Because if you go into the corner thinking that you've got the fresh tires, it's a very different experience, right, Andrew, as compared to when you have tires that have already done half a stint, basically.
Yeah, I definitely think that the tires did play a little bit of a part in that, because you just simply don't have the grip that you would. And when the tires are going through their heating up cycle, where they're rapidly increasing in temperature, that's where they're most unpredictable, whether they're new tires or especially when they're used tires. So I do think that those used tires definitely played a part, but I really think that in this case, it was a case of Alexander Van de Sant just didn't know what tools he should be on, especially being in clean air. And it's so easy with the amount of downforce that these cars run, especially the amount of front downforce that these cars run, to have just a little bit too much weight jacker in it, and that bump will just upset the car, and as soon as it gets sideways, it's so hard to save it.
A couple of cars have come down onto pit lane. They include, of course, Alexander Van de Sant, who has managed to stay on the lead lap, so could be worse. He's still in with a hypothetical chance, but it's now going to take a rip-roaring drive up through the field, ducking and dicing his way past to get to the front. The AJ Musselman, Jacob Oster, Christian Macarelli all coming down as well. A decision which I don't hate at the end of the day, Andrew, because it just gives them a little bit more flexibility in terms of the strategy. They may decide to still come at a similar point to the rest of the field, but they've got some fresh rubber, they've got that flexibility, and when you're back in the pack, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, if you're back in the pack, you might as well come in. The one that kind of surprised me a little bit staying out was probably Joe Branch. It looks like he's stayed out one here where the rest of the people around him came in. But other than that, yeah, if I were in the back, probably even like all the way up to 8th or 9th, I would have considered coming in this caution just to get that little bit fresher tires, open up the strategy just a little bit. The one thing I will say, though, is that we have seen that passing is a little bit difficult. So it is very important to maintain some track position. So there are pros and cons of both strategy, at least.
There are, and of course, if you're Alexis Newsom, you're basically forced into staying out at this point. You still have to pit an extra time if you came down during this caution cycle, so you are now under the pressure of the likes of Brandon Traynor, Robert Malechka, Adam Blocker, Tony Schowen, but you're only, give or take, 20, 25, maybe 30 laps at the most from coming down to pit road. So it is difficult times for Alexis Newsom, because if she doesn't get the caution timed up nicely, Andrew, she will not go 1 lap down, she will go 2 laps down. And we were talking about the danger zone at the start of this show. Well, Newsom is well and truly in that danger zone.
That's very true, Arjuna. But that being said, if the caution doesn't come at an inopportune time for Alexis Newsom, she could find herself in the driver's seat here, especially as some of the cars with fresher tires behind her really come into difficulties on the tires. She will have new tires in 30 laps, whereas everyone else will have 30 laps on their tires, half a second to a second off pace compared to Alexis Newsom. It could be a very good thing for her as well.
Well, third caution of the day comes to a close. No cars in the garage this time around, but it's Alexis Newsom that picks up the throttle and gets the green black out there. Brandon Traynor, the first car on fresh rubber, doesn't have to worry about the car behind, because Malechka the third is coming under fire from his teammate in Adam Blocker. No move forthcoming there as you see them diamond their way through turns 3 and 4. Brendan Lichtenberg is dropped behind Andrew Marquez for 6th position. They're fighting their way across the start-finish line as well. Clean restart once more.
Really nice start from all of these drivers, and you see the power slide trio of Malechka, Blocker, and Schowen all looking at the back of Brandon Traynor in second place and Alexis Newsom up front. Meanwhile, we've got a battle back here between Brendan Lichtenberg and Andrew Marquez. You saw Marquez make the move earlier on Brandon Lichtenberg, and now Lichtenberg, he just doesn't look comfortable in this car, especially when you compare him to his teammates. Traynor was looking really comfortable up front. Oster was looking really good, but Lichtenberg just hasn't seemed as comfortable in this car so far today, Arjuna. So I'm wondering if he's maybe running a slightly different setup that isn't suiting him quite as well. But it's been a little bit of a mystifying performance from the Hyperstar so far. But right now, on screen, Adam Blocker, Robert Malechka.
Yeah, and Blocker's really closing this part of the run. Malechka's been happier to run around the top side of the track in the most recent restarts, but this time around, not the case. It is down on the bottom, and it's Blocker who's building that momentum up. Here he comes down the back straight, just a little bit too far behind once more. No move forthcoming just yet. Excuse me, live broadcasting, words can be very, very difficult, but I would not be shocked if Malechka gets the message from his teammate to let him pass and to let Blocker be the one to try and put the pressure on to Brandon Traynor.
That's true, but at the same time, I know that Malechka is extremely competitive, and he might not necessarily want Blocker by. Right now, it looks like, at least how the championship has gone so far, that these are two of our championship hopefuls in Malechka and Blocker. So as much as it might be the better team strategy for them to swap places and have Blocker go after Traynor, it might not be the best championship play for Robert Malechka right now.
Van der Sant battles his way past not one but two cars. Jacob Oster gives a squeeze to Joe Branch, who just about gets out of the way. Jacob Oster trying to follow Alexander Van der Sant up through the pack, working to the outside, just trying to rob him of some momentum. Will try and get the up and under, but Van der Sant clearly comfortable with his car. Next car up the road will be Andreas Eick, who has cleared himself about 7/10 because Jacob Oster continues to fight this one forward, and 13th place goes to Jacob Oster. Surely, though, at some point, these cars have to start working together to maintain their momentum, to work their way through to the front of the field. Top 5 as it runs: Alexis Newsom, Brandon Traynor, Robert Malechka, Adam Blocker, and Tony Schowen. 2.5 seconds separating those 5 cars. Andrew Marquez not far behind 5th. Brendan Lichtenberg, Jesper Orman, Trey Shadid, and Matt Holliber complete the top 10. About to get to the halfway point of this race, and about to get to the point where Alexis Newsom should start to be struggling on the tires. But clearly, clean air is so important in this race, Andrew, with the sun baking the track right now, that Brandon Traynor is not even half a second close to the car in front.
Yeah, this really underlines just how important that clean air is, Arjuna. As you say, Brandon Traynor, he simply can't make up any time on Alexis Newsom. So even though Newsom has 30-lap older tires compared to Traynor, she's not giving up anything in terms of time. And it'll be a while, I think, before Brandon Traynor is able to even mount a charge. But one driver who is on the charge, we've seen him make the pass on Van der Sant. Now he's looking at Andrew Wood. That's Jacob Oster here. He's looking, on Andreas Eick. He's looking really strong here in that other i5G car. Of course, Oster had that trouble on pit lane earlier with the penalty, and he's really finding his way back right now.
And of course, suspected speeding penalty. Not 100% sure, but that would seem to be the most likely scenario. He closed that 1 second gap as quickly as you'd like, and he's pinched down on the inside, down in 4th gear, has to lift himself out of the throttle. Not able to close just yet, but that car is looking so comfortable, and surely it's a matter of if not when for the number 16 car. It's down in 13th place and starting to drop off the cars in front as well. 1.2 separates 11th and 12th positions. 2 Team Talent teammates, Andrew Wood and Andreas Eick, separated by a significant margin there. And now Andreas Eick defends the inside, and here comes Jacob Oster, who's done this once before, elects not to dive down low this time around. He seems to be trying to set up that move on the outside, and look at him try and do it, Andrew.
Yeah, really nice move here from Oster. Basically, he just moved onto the right-hand corner of Eick through the middle of turns 1 and 2, so that by the time he was on the exit, he had the position with his nose and with his rear wheel, and it forced Eick to get out of the gas just a little bit. Nice move, nicely done from Jacob Oster, and that's really how you sort of have to make the move happen here at Iowa Speedway, is because the outside line does have that momentum, and you either need to get a really big run so you can clear the car before they get to the exit, or like Van der Sant happens here, you just can't keep that momentum up, and you inevitably fall behind because you just aren't able to track out to the exit of the corner like you want to.
Oh, but he's trying for all that he's worth, just not able to get it done, at least just yet. Halfway through this race, officially 3 cautions so far. It started off really, really clean, and from there, well, a bit of a commentator's curse, that's for sure. It's also separated out now that we've got these a green flag run sort of underway. A lot of these drivers have got significant wear on their tires now. Of course, Alexis Newsom, 70 laps into her stint, should be down onto pit lane in about the next 10 laps or so. Then there's a bunch of cars 35 laps into their run. Those are the cars that pitted 2 cautions ago. A couple of the cars came down on that last caution. The highest place of them, Jacob Oster, who's of course passed on Andreas Seik, is now Alexander Van der Sant. Looks like he might just have got the move done, but Andreas Seik pops himself above Van der Sant into 13th place. Here's Matt Holleba, another car who we've seen make moves on ovals, but at a track where moves are hard to come by. It's remarkable to think about, Andrew, that he's up 6 positions from where he qualified.
A really strong run from Holleba so far today. I think he's been doing a good job of being patient here so far, but you can see he's starting to get a little bit frustrated with Shadid in front of him. I think that Holleba right now, what he's got to be doing is just looking for the clean air for the most part. And he's doing a good job of going down low, but he's just not quite close enough to really use the momentum to really get onto the corner of Shadid that he needs to in order to get by him. So I think he's doing a good job so far, and hopefully he continues his forward progress through the rest of this race.
Up front, gap now under 0.4 of a second. Brandon Treno is closing bit by bit for the race lead. Malechka still 0.7 back from second place, the net race leader. And now the question really does become, how will the strategy play out here? We know that all of the drivers will have 1 pit stop left. If we go green from here to the checkered, we're looking at a 20-minute race. Given how fast these laps tick away, remember, lap times just under 18 seconds for the majority of the cars, unless you're fighting side by side, in which case you're above of 18 seconds, but not by much. Really just flying by is a race like this. And when you compare the new short tire model, Andrew, to what they see in the real world, what are the major differences that you see? Because I think it's fair to say, with the new road course tire, the IR18 is, in our unbiased opinions as IndyCar community members, the best car to drive in iRacing. But on the ovals, the car itself, both in the real world and the virtual, not necessarily as engaging on the ovals.
Yeah, so the problem with a simulation like this is that you're balancing realism with user enjoyment, I think, a little bit. Because, I mean, you look at the real world races at a place like Iowa, and they have almost no grip in the real world. They were slowing down to 150, 140 miles an hour in the corners here towards the end of a run. So you really saw a lot of fall off. So this tire here in particular, I think, has moved in the direction of more realistic. Before we were, I think, had far too much grip at places like Iowa. Now we have less grip. We're still probably a little bit too much grip, but it's definitely moved towards that realism. Here's Newsom into pit lane, nearly loses it on pit entry, but good job getting it slowed down there.
Yeah, that was a major lockup of the inside front. We saw drama yesterday in Indy Elite with cars onto pit lane. Bit of drama, but no sweat off her back for Alexis Newsom. Let's take a look from the replay as well. What happened to her is onto pit lane. She was coming. Watch on board here. Just locked up the inside front, but held it very, very nicely as she'll drop off the jacks with 4 fresh Firestone tires, a full tank of fuel as well, and she is going to the end of the race from here.
Yeah, final pit stop for Alexis Newsom, barring anything catastrophic happening. And what I'm really interested to see here, Arjuna, is just how fast Alexis Newsom is going to be on these newer tires, because we've really seen just how much some of these lap times have fallen off. They're now in the 17.9s, whereas qualifying was in the 16.7s. So 1.2 seconds a lap slower than the qualifying pace, at least. So it'll be very, very interesting to watch just how fast Alexis Newsom is in these next few laps. She's right behind Adam Blocker right now, and if she can get back past Blocker, past Malechka, and past Treno, that will put her in a much better position if a caution does unfortunately have to come out, she would be in position for a wave around if that would happen. So it's very important that she puts the pedal to the metal right now and gets around Blocker, Malechka, and Treno, I think.
We have seen how difficult it's been for cars on newer tires to get past cars on older tires. Now, how aggressive does Alexis Newsom want to be? She is cutting to the inside of Adam Blocker. That's on the right-hand side of the screen. Left-hand side is the battle for what is not for fifth, but instead, now that Newsom has come down to pit, is for fourth. Tony Schowen, contact with Pavelski earlier in the race. No major damage for his car, and the native Iowan defends from Andrew Marquez. 2/10 back on the right side. Look at Newsom, though, just trying to find a way past. Unable to do so far.
Yeah, I think Newsom, she was trying to make the inside work. Now she's going to try and make the outside work, maybe do an over-under here, but she's got to find a way past Adam Blocker really quickly, or else she's going to lose that advantage that the new tires get. Oh!
And into the wall for Alexis Newsom. Now the question will be, how significant was that wall strike?
It looked like a little bit of a glancing blow, so she might have been able to get away with it, but not ideal coming out of turn 4 there for Alexis Newsom. It looks like Adam got a little bit loose on the inside, and it just looked like she got a little bit spooked by how loose Adam was. Blocker was able to catch it without really impeding her, but that action that she saw from Blocker's car, I think, just spooked her a little bit into the outside wall, and it does look like she has some damage here because she is rapidly dropping back behind Tony Schowen and Andrew Marquez.
Watch here. There you can see that spooky moment that Andrew mentions, and she just goes up the track, and at a track that is relatively narrow like this, into the wall for Alexis Newsom, and that really has put to bed any sort of hopes of her really challenging for the lead. She is, give or take, about 20 kilometers an hour down in terms of speed at this point in time. She is very much just fighting for survival. She does manage to get past Marquez, a little bit of a wiggle on the exit of turn 2, the bump that is there. Meanwhile, in the battle for the lead, well, it's not really a battle anymore. Brandon Treno is 1.8 seconds clear of Robert Malechka III. There isn't that much lap traffic that's playing a factor just yet.
Yeah, I do think that Treno will be coming up to lap cars pretty quickly here. Looks like Andreas Eick is right in front of Brandon Treno now, so we actually are starting to see a little bit of lap cars. Eick really does a good job staying nice and high, giving Brandon Treno the line there, but it does look like we're finally starting to get some lap traffic, and especially as we get in towards this pit cycle, this could really affect things depending on how these drivers approach these lap cars might actually affect when they come into pit stop.
There was another moment for Alexis Newsom that you'll see right here, coming in through turn 1, trying to get past Adam Blocker, and look at how that car just pivots on her. Not sure if that was as a result of the damage, if it was a result of a little bit too much weight jacker into the car, but that car clearly damaged and not handling the way that she wants. Andrew Wood is onto pit lane, as is the car from second, Robert Malechka, onto pit lane very early, hoping to get the undercut. But Andrew, this is where the danger zone starts to loom over the drivers.
We are 100% into the danger zone now, Arjuna. This is a big gamble from Robert Malechka. He had been doing a really good job in second place, and he was looking set for a second place. If this doesn't pay off, this is a big risk for Malechka, but at the same time, there could be a lot of reward. We saw that Alexis Newsom was able to just hound the back of Adam Blocker. This could be the difference in getting by Brandon Treno. If you can't get by him on the track, you could be able to get by him on this pit cycle here, and I don't think that Treno will be able to respond. So Malechka comes out right behind Brandon Treno and the lap car there, so Malechka very close to being on the right lap here. That will put him out of at least as big of a danger zone, but still a big risk here from Malechka.
He's not far behind Treno, so now needs to get the hammer down and really work his way forward. But obviously that is much easier said than done. And while Malechka does that, Matt Holliber is side by side with Trace Shadid. This is the battle for sixth as it runs right now, but here comes Van der Zandt, cutting and carving his way through on Shadid. Next car in line would be Holliber. Tony Schowen is down to pit lane this time around. We are well and truly into the pit window now.
Really nice move from Van de Sant there. You really saw what happens when you lose momentum, and I think Shadid is really starting to lose the tires out from under him. But once Hollabaugh got by him, Van de Sant was able to use that lack of momentum and that opportunity to really take advantage and make the move happen. Now Van de Sant bottled up behind the lap car there on the outside. Who is that? I think that was Muscleman, AJ Muscleman. So we see Van de Sant losing a little bit of ground now, but it's one of those things where you see so many different tire strategies right now, a lot of coming and going, and so it's going to require a lot of heads-up driving from all of these drivers to stay clean, and that's exactly what needs to happen as we see Brandon Traino now on pit road, Arjuna.
Brandon Traino's on pit road. Crucially, I think for Van de Sant, he played that smart. He saw both Jacob Oster and Andrew Wood, who have already made their pit stops coming, and wanted to get out of their way as quickly as possible. Off of the lane, here comes Brandon Traino. Where is Robert Malechka III? He's coming out of turn 2. He's got the momentum on his side, and new net race leader is Robert Malechka, who has made the undercut work in his favor.
Yeah, that's exactly what Malechka needed to have happen, but now he's got one more person to worry about, and that is Adam Blocker. Blocker is still going out there. He's still going strong, and it looks like he's going to try and go as long as he possibly can. I don't know whether this is going to pay off for Adam Blocker, but it is at least an opposite strategy to what Traino and Malechka have done. So it could present him an opportunity, but I think those tires are just about done on our IndyCar reigning champion here.
We'll see if he comes down this time. He's tucked up behind Joe Branch. You can see just how much he's arcing it through the corner. Just no grip, and he really is just hoping the caution flies right now. AJ Musselman onto the box. Jesper Orman is pitting this time around as well. Any mistake on pit entry could be that opportunity for the pace car to come out and shake this field up. 4 cars still on the lead lap. Of course, 4 cars yet to pit as well. Brandon Traino is 3/10 off the back of Malechka at this point in time. You can see he's following close, and given that Traino has spent the majority of this race in relatively clean air, Andrew, this is crucial to see what Traino has to work with as he closes on the net race leader.
This is so important. Traino has to make the move happen in these next few laps if he's going to make it happen at all. He has the fresher tires now, but those tires won't last long. He also has a slight fuel advantage because he got those tires with a lighter tank. But at the same time, he's not able to really get up beside Robert Malechka just yet. So these are the important laps for both Brandon Traino and Robert Malechka. If Malechka can stay in front for maybe another 5-10 laps, I think he's probably got this race wrapped up. But at the same time, Brandon Traino is going to give him anything he can. As we see a big, oh no, we got a spinner on the front stretch.
And is that the caution? That will be the question. I believe it's Matt Hollabaugh who is sliding up the track, and the surprise is that the caution is not out. There it is, and that was what Adam Blocker was waiting for. It will bring Alexander Van der Sant and Brendan Lichtenberg back into the equation. We talked about the danger zone, Andrew. Guess what? Sometimes commentators know what we're talking about.
Absolutely, and it was one of the 3 who were hoping for that caution, and Brendan Lichtenberg did get a piece of this. It looked like they were going 4 wide off of turn 4, and it was just a traffic jam. Hollabaugh gets loose on the outside, comes down across. It looked like, I think that was Brandon Lichtenberg there, who he came down across, but you can just see all the chaos that's caused by these older tires versus these newer tires. People going completely different speeds through these corners. So Hollabaugh tries to go through the middle and then around the outside, and he just gets loose right across the front of Brendan Lichtenberg and then spins into the infield, and then unfortunately spins back up onto the track as well.
I don't want to say it's silly, because that's not the word that I have in mind for this, but it's optimistic, it's aggressive, and
Yeah, it was definitely an aggressive move, Arjun. I will agree with you there. I will say that I see what Holloway was trying to do. It's just that the execution wasn't there. He needed to give a little bit more space to the cars on the bottom, and because what ended up happening is as the cars on the bottom started coming up on corner exit, he got a little bit spooked, changed his steering angle slightly, and that upset the car right on corner exit as the car's coming set. And that's what caused the car to basically get loose. So it was a self-inflicted loose situation from Holloway really there. So unfortunate that it happened, but at the same time, it's also now set up one heck of a finish here between Blocker, Van de Sant, Lichtenberg, and it'll be interesting to see how Malechka and Traino recover from this.
I think it's now going to be the question. Lichtenberg spent 24 and a bit seconds in the lane getting damage repaired. Does he still have some lingering damage? That's question number one. Question number two is for Christian Maccarelli, the only car to not set a lap time here. He's in third, Andrew. Incredible.
Yeah, really good fortune for Christian Maccarelli. He did exactly what he needed to do and banked on that caution, and that's put him in prime position here. But I will say that given the pace that we've seen from him, at least so far today, it doesn't really seem like he has top 5 pace, but he has a number of cars right behind him that'll be itching to try and get right back into this fight, particularly the likes of Brandon Traino. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on this restart when we have some of these slower cars mixed in with some of the drivers who have been showing the pace all race long here.
Now the question is, how many cars will get the lap back? As it stands right now, 6 cars are on the lead lap. It would appear as though only Malechka and Traino are in a position to get the wave around and to be back on the lead lap. I'm not sure if that computes.
Yeah, so it looks like...
Is that just my timing and scoring being a little bit off here?
I'm trying to figure that out myself, Arjuna.
Because Joe Branch is in front of Blocker, but scored in a position on my timing screen where he's not going to be able to get the lap back.
So it looks like he's going to be getting 1 lap back, but not both laps back, is what I'm seeing here, Arjuna. So
gotcha.
Malechka and Traino were in front of Adam Blocker and 1 lap down. Ike, Marquez, Showen, Newsom, Oster, Wood, Orman, Shadid, and Branch were all in front of Adam Blocker, but 2 laps down. So they'll get one of their laps back, but they'll all still be 1 lap down. Malechka and Traino are the only drivers who are able to come around once, and they are on the tail end of the lead lap now, and we'll get the wave around here. So we have 6 cars on the lead lap coming back to the green flag here as we see the wave around happening right now, and Adam Blocker right behind the pace car.
And that does mean that for Malechka and Traino, they're still going to have all those lapped cars in between them and the top 4, right? Because we're not within 10 to go.
Yeah, so Traino is, I believe, 10th or 11th in line right now. So he does have some work to do to get back towards the front of this field.
Well, if you wanted drama, remember, Monday night, iRacing IndyCar Open Championship, where else do you need to look? Adam Blocker has had the caution that he needs play into his hands. Green flag is back out. Blocker from Van de Sant, Maccarelli, Lichtenberg, the top 4, and then lap traffic means the gap back to Brandon Traino, Malechka the third, is 3 full seconds. Malechka has already been swarmed by Brandon Traino. Traino got the launch there and the jump on the restart. He's worked his way past Malechka.
Yeah, that's exactly what Traino needed to do, but he needs a lot more help in order to get back up to the back of the top 4 here. Meanwhile, it'll be interesting to see if Van de Sant, with that repaired car, has anything at all for his teammate. And it looks like Brendan Lichtenberg is making the move on Christian Maccarelli here, Arjun.
And that was bold, that was brave. Squeeze to the inside. The Hyperstar said, "Thank you very much. Doesn't matter how much you want to run me to the inside. I'll take that position," and look at the momentum that he's already building on second place Van der Sat. Traino almost comes to blows with Andrew Wood on the right side of your screen. So the lap traffic is going to be a major factor. I don't think Traino's going to have enough time to dice his way through the traffic and build the, or should I say, close the advantage that the top three will have. He is out of the equation right now. He's cleared a whole bunch of cars. Malechka still trying to clear almost 4 cars.
Yeah, I was going to say don't tell Traino that because he's certainly driving like see how's a chance. And oh no!
That was the muscle man. That was the muscle man. Yellow flag is back out, and that is a significantly damaged IR18. And the number 9 car brings out the caution for what I believe is the 5th time today. Andrew Wood got mixed up in that one as well. We'll go ahead and dial up the RaceSpotTV replay machine, and we'll catch the tail end of it here. I think very similar to what we've seen before, Andrew.
Yeah, I think in this case, just Muscleman just doesn't quite have the car underneath him that he needed to. He gets loose into turn 1, and Wood just nowhere to go on that one. Unfortunate bystander there. But Muscleman's really been fighting the car a lot today, and you can just see he just is high in turn 1 and 2, and there is a bump not only on the inside but also on the outside, and it looked like he just hit the bump that's on the outside. If you get into that extreme high groove, spun his car around and nowhere for Wood to go.
Well, caution back out here today.
And I will say that this definitely helps Brandon Traino a fair bit because he has 2 options here. He can either go in and take a pit stop and maybe get fresher tires and use those even fresher tires to potentially help him get through the field once more, or because of those moves that he was making, those ultra aggressive moves, he could also choose to stay out and be closer to the front of this field. So a couple of different choices from Brandon Traino. Do we know whether he's come down on pit road at all yet? Yes, it does look like he did. So looks like he's going to take some fresh tires, low fuel, and see what he can do for 20 laps here, Arjuna.
Yeah, and I don't hate this decision. I think this is probably the best idea because remember, he had pitted so much earlier than the 4 out front that he was already about 30 laps into the run. So he's already shown that he can be aggressive to get his way past the lapped cars. He'll have to do that again with a couple of them. And just remind me, Andrew, is it 5 laps or 10 laps to go when we start cycling cars back under a caution?
It is 10 laps to go, Arjuna. So with 10 laps to go, if the restart happens within 10 laps to go, not the caution, but the restart itself, if that lap falls within that, then the lap cars drop to the rear. So if we get potentially maybe 3 or 4 laps of green flag running, maybe 5, and then we get another caution, that could really play into Brandon Traino's favor.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Cautions breed cautions, right? That's the situation. And given that for Traino, he is going to have to force the issue. I mentioned earlier, this is a great opportunity for him to get some points that he's really missed out on in the last couple of weeks, given the strength of field. He's going to force those situations. It is not out of the realm of possibilities. It is a definite non-zero chance that the caution comes out once more. Now the question is, will we get the 7 or 8 laps under our belts before heading to the caution? We'll wait and see. It should be a 16, 17 lap shootout because the lights are still on the pace car. So at least 1 more lap before we go back to green.
And I will also say, Arjuna, that a number of the drivers that were 1 lap down also came down on a pit road. So Brandon Traino is, I did the count, 6 cars behind Christian Macarelli in 4th place right now. So that's not terrible. He doesn't have very many laps, and he probably could use another caution, but it's definitely not the end of the world for Brandon Traino in terms of trying to make up those positions.
This is why we love IndyCar, Andrew. It's that you have, last week we're at Spa, this week we're at Iowa with the very same car.
Absolutely. And people will say that oval racing is just turning left. And I think that we've proven today that that is absolutely not the case. There's so much strategy involved. There's so much driver input involved in just trying to set up a pass, let alone actually getting it executed properly. Oval racing in an Indy car is probably one of my favorite pastimes on iRacing. And and it's every bit as fun as road racing for me.
As someone who was very much a road racer before he even looked at an IndyCar, I can attest, it is not just turning left. It's a little bit more difficult than that. There's this thing called dirty air, Andrew, which is like magic.
Yeah. Dirty air is a thing that you will quickly learn about if you jump in a car and think that you can simply go fast and turn left.
Yeah, the fix setup here at Iowa as well. I was trying to do some AI racing because Iowa is AI enabled with this IndyCar. Treacherous, to say the least. Pace car back off. It's had a few more trips out than we'd necessarily hope, but Adam Blocker punches the throttle. Green flag back out in the air here in Iowa. Has got a 0.4 of a second advantage over his teammate Van der Sant, who is coming under fire from Brendan Lichtenberg, who got the launch, and maybe just that damage to Alexander Van der Sant is slowing him down. The Hyperstar has to get out of the throttle because Van der Sant holds steady, but already that advantage out front, 0.3 of a second.
Really nice start there from Adam Blocker. That was exactly what he needed to do. Use those first couple of laps to really get that little bit of a buffer, and that's really going to prevent Van der Sant from mounting as big a charge as he can. But then I'm looking right at the back at Brandon Traino. I think we got to go at least, split screen this, because Traino is right behind a hornet's nest of cars here. He's got Malechka right in front of him. That's for position. Then he's got 4 lap cars. But it's really looking like his tires are about to come into their own here. So we should see some excitement here for the next few laps.
Van der Sant is closed as well. 0.2 the gap between first and second, with Lichtenberg in tow. Macarelli has dropped off almost a full second to third in front. So no qualifying lap for him, but he'll definitely guarantee a spot in the top 5. Traino to the inside, trying to get past Malechka. All the while, lapped cars in front of them. Malechka chops down to the inside on Brandon Traino. Nowhere to go, though. This is exhilarating.
Yeah, now Hollabuzz on the outside acting as a pick, so Traino gets around Tony Schowen, but he's still battling with Robert Malechka, and he needs to clear Malechka within the next couple laps if he has any shot of getting back up towards these leaders.
Coming toward 10 laps to go here in Iowa. Adam Blocker has control, and it's unlikely, I think, that he will be challenged. The question will be the rest of the podium. Traino still looking low, no way past on Malechka III, who has been extraordinary since joining Powerslide Motorsports. We've seen how strong he is in the ovals, but now in an open setup competition, a little bit different. Here comes the momentum from Traino, though. Should slide up the track and almost walls Malechka III. Still, traffic jam in front of them, nowhere to go. These two surely have to watch out here. Malechka takes it 3 wide in the middle.
Oh, what a move from Traino.
Where's he going to go?
Traino makes it 3 wide on the exit of 2 and somehow gets around, almost back up on the exit of 4 into Andreas Ike, but somehow he's able to maintain the momentum. And it looks like he's going to clear Malechka here at least. And no, Traino's around!
Traino loses control, and with 10 laps to go, or under 10 laps to go, we are back under caution. It will be a shootout to the end, and now we know that at least if Traino can stay on the lead lap, which he has done, if he can make sure he didn't hit the wall, which I also think he's done, he's not out of the picture here, despite that spin.
Oh my word. I thought it was getting crazy throughout that run, and it just got crazier because now, as you mentioned, all of the lap cars are going to be going to the back, so it's going to be 1 through 6 here. But what happened here is Traino, he hits the bottom of the track. He hits the apron with his 2 left side tires, and that has upset the car, and it just spun him around on the exit of 2. You can see from his teammate Jacob Osser, he just clips that yellow line there. That's all it takes to send Traino around. He probably had the tools maxed out to the point where he was getting as much rotation as he possibly could, and it probably didn't help his situation there with his tool setting. So it now comes the interesting part, because Brandon Traino comes down on a pit road. He's gonna have, I think, 4 laps if my math is correct.
I think
it
so.
might be 3. It's either 3 or 4 laps. He is the only one of those first 6 cars to come down pit lane here. He's going to be on fresh tires. Will the tires have enough time to heat up properly for him to come through and win this race? Or will it be Blocker, Van der Sant, or Macarelli, or Malechka on the older tires, because I think that it's about to get insane here, Arjuna.
Well, I believe Brandon Traino had to replace his front wing. That's why the pit stop was 14 seconds. So he had to come down. That wasn't a question. He nosed it in. He minimized the contact, yes, but there was definite contact, a bit of a crunch into the wall. I don't know if Traino's going to be able to do this, because I think you're right. I think it will be... I was thinking it was going to be 4, but they may take an extra lap to wave everyone, the lapped cars to the back. It's been so long since I've been in this situation that I don't honestly know.
So what'll happen is with 1 to green, Traino will basically be allowed to pass everyone in front of him. It doesn't take an extra lap, but it does require some coordination from the drivers to make sure that Traino coming through doesn't cause any issues, because you can see the drivers are sort of spread out behind the pace car. It's going to require some coordination to make sure that Traino can actually get through and not give any of these drivers penalties as well. So I think it's about to get crazy here, Arjuna, and I'm here for it.
Oh, we are here for it. Now, regardless of Malechka and Traino, I think Malechka's out of it. He's on tires that are well past their sell-by date, and they're just coasting to the checkered here. Can Lichtenberg get the jump on Van der Sant? Because he was close last time around, but I think Lichtenberg was cognizant of the fact that there was still a ways to go in the race. Now, next flag ends the race. All he's got to do is be a nose in front, and the position is his.
And for Van der Sant, he's got to be trying to get a better start than he did last time, because he lost probably 2 or 3 tenths on that start, and he just wasn't able to get to the back of Blocker. This time, he's got to be right on the back of Blocker and using every bit of that draft to try and get around him on that first lap, or at the very least get position on Blocker to make something happen. So I think that this race is far from finished between anyone in this top 6 here.
And it was clear on the last restart, there was no coordination between Blocker and Van der Sant. Surely this time, you know, we were talking about Blocker maybe getting on the radio and saying multi-21 to Malechka. Surely now, if you're Van der Sant, you're on the radio to Blocker saying, I need your help, let's coordinate this restart.
I think that these two are... Like, they may be new teammates, but I think that they're probably trusting of each other enough to know that neither driver wants to see the car that's in third place, which is the I5G car of Brendan Lichtenberg. Neither of them wants to see Brendan Lichtenberg win this race. Neither of them wants to see Brendan Traino win this race. So I think that what they're going to see, I don't think that anything necessarily needs to be said, but I think we're going to see some hard, fair racing from the two teammates. And they're probably not going to do anything that's going to compromise the 1-2 here, but we're about to find out here, Arjuna.
And it will be 3 laps to go. Remember, next flag ends the race. Brandon Traino is in 6th. He's got an opportunity, but doesn't have time on his side. Blocker, for the final time, picks up the throttle. It's a 3-lap shootout at the fastest short track on the planet. Malechka already looking to the inside of Christian Maccarelli. Traino almost makes it 3 wide as they work their way through turn 1 and 2. Bully Maccarelli out of the way. Battle for second, side by side as well.
This was exactly the restart that Adam Blocker needed, and Brandon Traino up to 5th place on that first lap. Maccarelli shuffled back to 6th, but can Brandon Traino use those tires? He's going full send, nearly gets into the back of Robert Malechka off of 2.
About 0.8 miles left to go here. Van der Sant under fire. Blocker should be clear. The question is, final 2 steps on the podium, which way around will it go? Van der Sant outside line, a nose in front and clear as they come through turn 3 and 4. It's been a stop and start, exhilarating race, but Adam Blocker wins round 4 of the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship in a blockbuster of a finish. Van der Sant 2nd, Lichtenberg 3rd. Brandon Traino not able to make those tires work to his advantage. He finishes down in 5th.
Yeah, unfortunately for Traino, I think he needed another maybe 3 or 4 laps to really take advantage of those new tires. But what a race from Adam Blocker. He did exactly what he needed to do through most of the first bit of this race, played it nice and patient, was in 3rd place when it counted, and then through the pit cycle and through some veteran moves, he really made that pit strategy work for him. Comes out with a well-deserved win here today, Arjuna.
And burning the house down after the disappointment of round one, after self-inflicted mistake with the fuel strategy, redemption for Blocker. He wins here today. It's great to see. What a good performance. Doing some laps around the Legends course as well at Iowa. Short track racing at a short track, well, that's the way it goes. Here's a look then at your race results after 160 laps. Adam Blocker, 2/10 clear, makes it a Powerslide Motorsports 1 and 2, Van der Sant second. The Hyperstar started in second, dropped down to the edge of the top 10, worked his way forward with the nicely timed caution in his mind. He completes the podium. Robert Malechka III at one point looked as though he was going to win the race if it had gone green after that final green flag cycle of stops, but the caution flew. He's ended up this race in fourth with Brandon Traynor right behind him. Christian Maccarelli sixth after not putting in a qualifying lap time. What a day for Maccarelli, 13 positions gained. Andreas Ike worked his way up through the field slowly but surely. He finishes in seventh with Tony Schau and Jacob Osser and Andrew Marquez rounding out the top 10. Andrew Marquez fastest lap of the race in that last 3 laps and the shootout that we had. Trace Shadid 11th with Joe Branch down in 12th after contact in the first caution of the day. Alexis Newsom in 13th, Matt Holliber 14th, Jesper Ullman 15th with our graveyard filled with cars. AJ Musselman, Andrew Wood, Matt Pavelski and Adam Crane all not getting to the end of this race, but what a race it was. Well, it's that time where we get some post-race interviews. And I tell you what, let's go ahead and go trackside into Victory Lane where Adam Blocker is standing by. Adam, it was the timing of the caution that worked out perfectly for you. Were you ever in doubt that it was going to work out that way? Because it looked as though Clean Air was dominant and whoever started at the front was well and truly in control.
Yeah, I mean, I probably could have done something strategically different earlier in the race, but yeah, I mean, qualifying, we just weren't quite there up to I5G. I think we were there on race pace, if not a little bit better, but yeah, I mean, you just couldn't pass. It was really tough to pass. I think if it would have been warmer, it would have actually been a better race because there would have been more fall off and you could have seen different tire strategies and stuff, but yeah, but how it was tough to pass, so I knew I had to do something different, and we had a gap back to fourth, and everybody was coming out roughly like where they pitted from, just 2 laps down, so I knew where I was going to come out, and I knew if I had pitted then I wasn't going to lose anything. I was still going to be third, so I was just like, let me hope for a caution, and I got one. So
You said you want it to be warmer, but that's one of the big differences with the traditional Iowa race that we have here in this IndyCar Open Series. Usually we're under the night lights. Instead, we're in the middle of the day here. When it came to the new tire model, though, and the way that you set up the car, how different was it from the last time that you raced here?
It was pretty different. I think some other people had similar philosophies to what they had last time, but I think we went with a pretty different philosophy to that. Honestly, I think they ended up being similar pace, but yeah, it was just kind of interesting. We had several wildly different setup concepts, and they all seem to be pretty similar on pace, so it's pretty interesting setup challenge for this track.
Talk to us then about the team itself. Top 5 in the points, locked out by Powerslide Motorsports coming into this one. It must be good to have the entire team working together on a weekly basis now, given that, we're coming up to the month of May where all the focus is. It's time for Powerslide Motorsports to get an iRacing Indy 500.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about at the end of the day, and bringing Rob and Alex on is part of the preparation for that. And then obviously, having people like Hugo and Brian run open is great preparation for them to get back in race form for May as well. And, I think we're working really well as a team right now. And so hopefully we can carry that momentum through to May. And unfortunately I can't race, but, I'll definitely be proud if I can help contribute to a winning team.
Well, congratulations here today, and really another solid score of points for you. Happy New Year, and congratulations on the win.
Yep, thanks. See you guys next time.
Next week at Mid-Ohio, will Blocker be back on top on the road courses. Now standing by, second place on the day, and that was after some early damage. Alex, talk to us about what happened to you there, given that, I think it's fair to say, it was a self-inflicted mistake which you then had to put behind you and work your way back forward.
Yeah, that was an interesting race for sure. Yeah, our set we were really solid in the pack in dirty air, and especially on the long run. But once we got up front, it was a bit cooler track than we expected, so it just got super loose. And Adam was suffering too at the end there. But yeah, I just didn't expect it. The looseness kind of came out of nowhere a few laps into the stint, and I wasn't ready for it. So yeah, totally my mistake. I should have anticipated that better. So glad nobody else was collected. And yeah, I don't know how my damage wasn't worse. It was about 50 seconds of repairs, but after those were all done, the car was totally fine. Like I felt no loss of pace or anything. So I don't know, just luck of the draw, I guess, and happy to bring home a second place.
And how much fun was that after you got the damage repaired to carve your way through the field? There was a couple of close moments that we saw.
Yeah, for sure. Some really good racing, though, in the back in the middle and the back of the pack. I love this track and the way it races when you get those long runs and lots of traffic and, you know, working your way through, especially when you have a really rocket car like we had today. You can just fly through. It was a blast. So really good job to everybody.
And talk to us then about this new tire model, because I'm curious what it was like from the driver's point of view. It sounds like a lot of speed, and how does that relate in comparison to how you're actually handling the car lap after lap here? Because the laps just fly on past.
Yeah, they do. When the pace drops off and the handling starts to change, it happens very gradually, it seems. In the past, it may have been like more sudden, like from lap to lap. I mean, it was when I had my wreck, but when we were in the middle of the pack, it was just like really gradual fall off until the pace plateaued. And from there, it's just, keeping it together and making that, especially the right front here, last as long as possible, so you have something at the end of a run. And that's something that the team really excelled at, and it's what we planned for, and it really paid off at the end.
Well, great drive to second, great recovery drive, putting yesterday's race behind you as well. Looking forward to seeing what you've got for us in 7 days at Mid-Ohio.
Thanks, guys.
And from second place to third place, Brendan Lichtenberg, who qualified great, but then struggled early in the race. Well, made the caution timing work to his advantage. Brendan, talk to us about the early stage of the race and just how difficult that was from your perspective.
Well, I heard a little birdie that I was ridden off at the beginning of the race, so I'm glad to be here. But yeah, it was a struggle. But over the course of the run, I knew it was a long race, 160 laps. So overall, it was not the result the team wanted. I feel bad for Brandon. He put a ton of work into this car and led most of the time, and just racing things are going to happen, but I'm happy with my results. So.
Well, we wrote you off, but can you blame us? I mean, after that great qualifying, you were at the edge of the top 10 at one point in clean air pace. Was it just the way the car was handling that it wasn't to your benefit and you had to then dial in the in-car tools?
Just definitely need more front downforce. I thought with the track temp as we were, that I was probably going to be okay. I was going to be okay being on the tight side more than loose if I could stay in clean air, which I couldn't. But again, ultimately, it came down to being really aggressive on in-car tools. In turn one, I was like trying to pass Alex, and I was like sliding like PK in Hungary 86, trying to make a pass. I was on edge the whole time at the end.
Wrong open wheel motorsports competition to be talking about, but in terms of the battle then at the end of the race with Van der Sant, a couple of those late race cautions and the restarts, it looked like you had an opportunity to try and time up the run. What do you think you could have done differently to try and get second place away there?
I don't know if there's much I can do. When you have two cars in front of you, and with this aero push, you're going to have, the car in front of you is going to pick a line independently, for their own race. So when you have two lanes covered up, it's hard. That's just the nature of this car, and it happens every week. I was hoping for a mistake, maybe something wrong happening going into turn one, getting tight or loose, and that's what I was banking on, but figured probably low chance of that. So third after this race, though, I can be happy with it.
Well, it was a good drive back through the field, and again, I'm sorry we wrote you off, but you proved us wrong, and surely that's a little bit of fun to you as well. Congratulations on third, and hopefully it's not the last time we see you on a Monday night in the next couple of weeks.
hopefully next week. And real quickly, I just want to say hi to my family at home. Be Scott Pruitt.
That was Brendan Lichtenberg, the final of our podium interviews. And Andrew, well, Iowa, a little bit more caution-filled than we maybe expected, but it was a lot of fun. I think that's ultimately the story of the race. And now we're a third into the season. 4 absolutely incredible races as well, and I can't now wait to see what more we've got in store. Next week, we're heading to Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, Iowa definitely lived up to my expectations here today, Arjuna, but Mid-Ohio, one of the classic American road courses, presents an entirely different challenge to what we've seen so far this season. It's a much slower paced road course compared to the likes of Spa and Road America. The lap times and the speeds won't be as high, but the challenge will be incredibly high throughout this race. Basically, what you're going to be looking at is all sorts of off-camber corners. It's all about a rhythm and trying to maximize your passing opportunities, because those are few and far between at this track, but it's going to put on a barn burner of a race, just like every race so far has been, I'm sure.
And it's one of those tracks as well where there's so much elevation change that getting onto the power smoothly is much easier said than done. It's one where Road America maybe didn't have that much attrition. Spa-Francorchamps, again, not as much attrition as we necessarily expected. Attrition is going to be crucial here for what is a 45-lap race. Not as intense as Iowa by any means, but very likely the most intense race on the road courses we've had so far this year.
It's an incredibly demanding track on the drivers. You have to concentrate so hard. You have to be inch perfect in your inputs and in your turning. And it's just one of those tracks where you're concentrating 10/10ths throughout most of the lap. You basically get one shot at a break, which is on that long back straightaway. Other than that, you're going as hard as you can throughout the rest of the lap. And it's a huge challenge, and one that these drivers will probably be looking forward to, but also dreading to a certain extent, because as you mentioned, one small mistake, that's all it takes to potentially end your day at Mid-Ohio.
Well, that wraps us up once more on a Monday night here live at RaceSpotTV. America's fastest short track on the planet. Well, it put on a show. 8 cautions, yes, but until the end, it was unclear who was going to come out on top. A reminder as well that you can follow us across the social media. Keep in touch with all the latest news on RaceSpotTV and live in-race updates. If you're too busy to watch, well, you can stay connected across the social media, so make sure to follow us at RaceSpotTV. Subscribe to us on YouTube, hit that red button and the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live for some of the great sim racing series that we get to cover. We'll be back in 7 days' time for what is going to be an incredible 45-lap showdown at Mid-Ohio. One race later, we'll hit the halfway marker. Homestead, Miami is going to be fascinating. You do not want to miss any of the action here live on RaceSpotTV. On behalf of the entire team, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. Delighted to be joined by Andrew Kinsella once more. We'll see you in 7 days' time. For now, though, Happy New Year, so long, and goodbye.